Hey there, this is Matt, the lead developer at Mobile App Mastery. At Mobile App Mastery, I've been spending the past 2.5 years making apps for our company and also showing others how to do the same. So what I want to do today was talk about the most frequently asked question we get, and that is, how do I learn how to program? So let's talk about how to learn programming right now. And programming, the kind of programming we want to learn is how to program for iOS. Because what iOS is the programming environment and the operating system that makes iPhone and iPad apps. And that's what most of the people who email us are interested in talking about. So what I have is just a few simple things you need to really learn programming. And the first simple thing is just an understanding. And this is where reading and kind of doing your homework comes in, where you really have to just learn about computers and about the iPhone and the iPad and how they work, and at a very high level. It just helps to have the context and the understanding of what it is you're trying to do with programming. The next thing you need is to be able to see it in action. So it's one thing to read about programming, and it's another thing entirely to just to see how it works, to see what the process of typing in code and solving problems with computer programs is all about. And you really need to see that in action to really understand it. The next thing is you need practice, and I can't emphasize this enough. You need to practice as much as possible when it comes to programming. It's one of those things that you really learn by doing. And finally, it's a do-it-yourself mentality when it comes to programming. And so something you really need when you're learning programming is you need to give yourself a project and get to it and start working at it and make it work from start to finish. But when you do this, you'll run into the problems that you're likely to encounter with programming, and you're going to learn how to solve the problems and to know the environment. So what about iOS? So specifically, iOS is the environment where we would do programming that makes iPhone and iPad apps. And you need to know programming in order to work with iOS, but you actually also need to know three specific kinds of programming to work with iOS. So the first specific kind of programming is called procedural programming, and that's done in the C programming language. So C programming is the programming language that a lot of people will learn in college or in trade school. And this is the programming which does things in a step-by-step sort of way. And this is the foundation, really, of programming for iOS. The next level up is called object-oriented programming. It's specifically object-oriented programming with Objective-C. And even if you know object-oriented programming, Objective-C has its own flavor and syntax that you'll need to spend some time learning. Object-oriented programming is how we work with the different frameworks that really make the iPhone and iPad go. Finally, we have Cocoa Touch, and in context of what we're talking about today in programming, Cocoa Touch has some specific design patterns that it uses throughout its various components. And one of the things you really need to learn in context of programming for iOS is just the design patterns like delegation, target action, singleton. There's lots of different ways of doing things which are used throughout the entire iOS system, which are not traditionally programming but are sort of built on top of programming, which will help you out a lot. So let's talk about how I can help. I've been doing this for a long time now, 2.5 years, and I've been spending the past year training both in live sessions and also online with an ebook and a website. And I have actually spent a great deal of my time training people, so I think I can help you to learn programming, even if you never programmed at all before, or also if you're just a programmer who doesn't happen to know the various design patterns and object-oriented programming syntax of Objective-C too. So this is where I want to talk about the online workshop that this website here is about. So this online workshop is called How to Program, aptly enough, and this is a mobile app mastery product. This is part of our how-to series, and this is the how-to program is going to go over in detail Objective-C, Cocoa Touch. It's delivered via a online website which is split up into different sorts of lessons and split up into categories for the different sorts of programming topics we'll cover. And what we cover specifically is 4 different workshops, really. The first is iOS technology. The second is procedural programming in C. The third is Objective-C programming. And finally, we have a whole section of Cocoa Touch. Cocoa Touch is where you'll start to actually make iPhone apps as well. So it goes a little bit beyond the idea of just learning how to program. The content's delivered in high-definition videos, which you can view on Safari, or you can view on any web browser, or you can download to your desktop. It also includes a text description, so these are things we use to give you the understanding that you need to really understand the concepts behind programming. But what we also do is so you can see it in action for yourself. We do all these things as demos as well, and you'll be able to see a lot of the code in action. And I find that to be very helpful, especially in the live seminars that I've been doing. Finally, we have exercises in our lessons, and what these will do is will give you a chance to practice these concepts for yourself. Because as we know, really learning programming is all about practicing. So I would encourage you to take a really close look at doing the practice exercises. So we also include some bonuses